What's going on, whoever watches this? Welcome to my first official video here on this channel. Thank you so much for clicking on it and watching it. I'm your host Reaper, and today I want to answer a question that has been a hotly debated topic ever since these two publishing companies came to dominate the comic scene. And that question is simply, who's better, Marvel or DC? Seems like a pretty easy question to answer, right? Well, not really, because when I think about these publishers, I instantly think about the heroes, movies, merch, etc., as you'll see in this video. And both companies have tons of that, so it really kind of makes it hard to determine which is better. So this will cover 3 different angles to this argument, separated into 3 different segments. But first, if you do go on to enjoy today's video, hit the like button, it goes a long way, and consider subscribing while you're at it, because it does help out the channel. And with that being said, let's get right into it. What I'm going to try to accomplish with this segment is I'm going to try to determine who's more popular on a worldwide scale, using surveys and different things like that. When I think of iconic symbols and logos, the first person I think of is Jesus. But then after that, I think about Superman. In fact, a survey done by the New York Post in March of this year determined Supes was the most popular to American audiences. And no, I'm not saying that America is the world, but it kind of makes sense when you think about it. Superman is the oldest character in comics, making his first appearance in 1938. So not only has he had a longer time spent on comic book pages, but I would even go so far as to say he fathered all of comics. But not only that, he's also been in countless best-selling titles, and not to mention the effect that Superman has had on the people of his time. I mean, World War II was literally about to break out the next year, so you could imagine a lot of people were sad and, kind of depressed, which is an understatement actually. But Superman offered a way out for kids and adults. And then there's characters like Batman, which in my opinion is the second most relatable character in all of comics, as well as the second most iconic superhero. Because like Superman, Batman has had a longer time spent in comic books, appearing in 1939. So what about Marvel? Well, their poster boy is Spider-Man, of course, but I could also see how Avengers, but more specifically Iron Man, is more popular, seeing as though Endgame is literally the #1 movie in the world right now. But Spider-Man, his popularity, in my opinion, just doesn't come from the comics. Like, don't get me wrong, he's been a part of some very awesome comics, and has had a few big stories himself, but I feel like most of his recognition and popularity comes from movie adaptations and TV shows, as well as merchandise, because let's be honest, I don't think anybody is as marketable as Spider-Man, and that's mainly due to in part by Disney and their ability to get merchandise out to younger audiences. Now, just like Superman, Spider-Man at the time proved to be an escape and spoke to a younger generation, mainly middle school to high schoolers, and it's still like that today. And real quick before I move on to the next segment, I kind of thought about something about Batman and Spider-Man. So like the relatability between those characters, I feel like is so close, but Batman is more relatable than Spider-Man, to be honest with you, because when you think about it, one has superpowers and the other one doesn't. But on that same token, Batman is a billionaire, which I've never met a billionaire in my life, and Spider-Man lives in an apartment in New York and probably hasn't seen $1 billion in his whole career. But the fact that Batman kind of has no powers and relies on his brain power and his skill to get things done, that makes him so much more relatable than Spider-Man. Because in all honesty, the closer you are to getting to a superhero, the better you'll feel, and Batman is one of the most popular examples of a non-superpowered individual who's a superhero. So all in all, I'm gonna have to give this round to DC, simply because I feel like they are the more popular publisher when it comes to comics and animated movies and stuff like that. But currently, like, I'm talking currently as in the past 10 years, Marvel has definitely been killing it, and you'll see in this next segment, it's not even gonna be close. So that's a point for DC. So it's kind of disappointing that as soon as you're asked the question of which universe is better for movies, DC fans will be the first to tell you that Marvel movies are way better. Actually, Marvel is going to be the first one to tell you that, then DC. But because I'm a Marvel boy, I'm going to flex on DC just a little bit more. So as I said before, Marvel Cinematic Universe is amazing. And when you look at the list for highest grossing films of all time shown here, Marvel's all over the top. Like, having 9 separate films in the top 30 of all time time is one thing, okay? Like that's all right. And then having 2 in the top 15, that's a little bit better, right? But 3 movies in the top 10, with one of those movies beating out a film that has held number 1 almost as long as your cinematic universe has been around, is absolutely insane. Grossing over $2.79 billion, Avengers Endgame is absolutely, without a doubt, the best movie in the world. I mean, and the numbers prove it too. But then you have people like going to see the movie more than once, which happens more often than you think. But I believe a YouTuber by the name of Nimraps holds the current world record with, I think, 30 views on this movie. So he saw it 30 times in a row. And me just sitting there like looking at that number, I get chills, bro. Like that's commitment, to be honest with you. I think I'd stop at like 3, but with DC, no one's really talking about movies like that. Even their animated movies, nobody's talking about anymore. But I really do think that that could change with DC fandom releasing a whole bunch of trailers and stuff like that. More on that later. But as it stands now, the best DC film is The Dark Knight Rises, and that has $1 billion, which is still a lot of money, but 30th of all time, right? And when your competitors make a movie that's worth more than your best character, and that's in reference to how much Bruce Wayne is actually worth in comparison to how much the Avengers Endgame made, like that actually shows. That's pretty sad, honestly. And no, I know that it's not their fault, but wait, actually, yeah, it is their fault. It's their fault for sure. Just make better movies, bro. Like it's not that hard. All you gotta do is just find you a Kevin Feige and Anthony Russo, get his brother and all that stuff. Get him on the project. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I think they have contracts to Marvel actually, but if they could actually pull that off, then the DCEU would be way better. But like I said before, DC fandom just released trailers for the Snyder's Cut of Justice League, and if you didn't know, the Snyder's Cut is basically entirely different take on the Justice League movie, and is directed by Zack Snyder, which is where that Snyder Cut name comes from. And listen, all I'm saying is that the Snyder Cut better be right up there, if not better than the first Avengers movie, which sits at number 8, I believe, at $1 billion. So listen, if Batman could do it, why can't the Justice League? You get what I'm saying? Like that should be easily number 7, if not number 8. You get what I'm saying? So like I was saying, Marvel is definitely an amazing publishing company. Their comics are amazing, and the MCU is just absolutely insane right now. In the past 10 years, they've been killing it. But DC actually does have a chance to like come back with their new releases as well. But that's definitely a point for Marvel. And as you'll see in this next segment, I feel like Marvel and DC are going to be really, really close, and it's going to be a tough decision, but here we go. And so we finally come to the ending segment of this video. Who has the better storyline? Because just like a hero is only as good as its villain, a publisher is only as good as their stories. And in my opinion, Marvel and DC are neck and neck as far as storylines go. The Marvel has been more of like in the middle when it comes to darkness and lightheartedness. Like they're not too grim, but they can take it there. You know, I was surprised when Magneto ripped out the adamantium from Wolverine's skeleton, or when Captain America was sniped. That was pretty dark. So you get the picture. I mean, Marvel can take it there, but DC, I feel like DC is always going to be known for being dark because you got characters like Batman and, you know, to some extent even Superman, right? Sole survivor of his planet, you know, besides Kara Zor-El, making him really the only true Kryptonian, male Kryptonian at least. And then you have characters like, I don't know, Jason Todd, right? Jason Todd is literally bred for darkness and violence. He's made from that. But both companies have a multitude of stories. As for Marvel, they have popular stories like Secret Wars, House of M, Civil War, which was a good one, and Days of Future Past, which actually got a really good movie adaptation back in like 2015, I think. And as for DC, they have Watchmen, Batman Year One, All-Star Superman, Under the Red Hood, the former 3 having amazing animated movie adaptations. They also had storylines like Kingdom Come and Crisis on Infinite Earths, which I would really like to see an animated adaptation for, or a live action one. But with stories like Flashpoint, which is possibly my favorite comic book story of all time, which also led into a revamp, and that was explained really well. For those of you who don't know, it's the New 52. And I think that I have DC taking this one, and as much as it hurts my heart to say, like, yeah, DC I feel like is the more popular one, historically at least. Although with the popularity segment and the storyline segment, I could really choose either one, but I choose DC for the popularity segment because having the first superhero on your side, and with Superman being as popular as he is, that bodes well for your side, DC, like seriously. But there's no doubt in anybody's mind that Marvel is absolutely insane with the movies and just does better when it comes to live action adaptations. And look, all I'm saying is that if DC can actually make these new movies good, like the Suicide Squad movie and the Snyder Cut, if that's a hit, and I'm talking about like better than the original Avengers movie, which again sits at number 8 with $1 billion, right? If they can actually make those movies better, then we got a case on our hands. Seriously, like DC could actually end up being number 1 when it comes to movies. Because as I'm looking at it right now, Marvel Phase 4 has some assets, like you have Thor Love and Thunder, and then you have like Black Panther 2 coming out, like I think 2021. But like all the other shows and stuff that's out right now or that's coming out, they're like on Disney Plus and all that stuff like that. And I'm not really excited for it. I don't know who is. I guess bigger fans of Marvel than myself are excited for like WandaVision and all that. But I think I was one of the first people to realize that killing off Iron Man was a good move in the short term, but in the long term it kind of hurt you. You know, you kill off the person that started your universe and it's just like we'll see what happens. All right, so whoever watches this, just let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you, talk about it, you know what I'm saying? Hit that subscribe button and the like button if you did enjoy, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.